What's going on, boys and girls? This is Bujibin Bok Choi, bringing you another F123 ranked video. Now, we haven't done any ranked racing in quite a few weeks, and we missed the division reset. So we started in Silver 1 last week because we were in like Gold 2 or Gold 3 division. But because we didn't do any races, we get dropped to Bronze for this week. So we are in Bronze division, and I assume that the races were going to be pretty damn easy. So the tracks this week are Hungary, Saudi Arabia, and Mexico, as the Mexican Grand Prix is this week. Our first race here is at Hungary, set a purple sector 1 there. Kind of what I was expecting, as we are racing against a bunch of bronze and silver drivers. But as we come in through this part of the track now, you'll see our names start to flip-flop between P1 and P2. So this Max guy seems like he's got pretty decent pace as well, and I'm starting to get worried now. But we get flipped back up to P1, and we stay up here for the remainder of qualifying. So we will be starting on pole, but it looks like we'll actually have some competition with us. And this race really wasn't all that interesting when it comes to like overtaking action and stuff like that. But it was a pretty difficult defensive race for me, as I had to defend pretty much for almost the entire race here. And it really focuses on why setups are so important. So time trial setups, 50-45, we are on 45-40. So 5 clicks lower on the front and 5 clicks lower on the rear. P2 and P3 qualified 1 and 2 tenths slower than us, respectively. But we get a decent start here. And then going into turn 1, we actually make it through pretty cleanly. Missed the apex by a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that we were ahead. And I don't know what happens here. Take a look at the rear view mirror. P2 and P3 take each other out. And now Roscoe is up to P2. Now, I think he was like 7 or 8 tenths slower than us in quali. So I was expecting this to be a pretty easy race, considering he is on the mediums as well. Ty Claire on the softs in P3. So first lap, exploratory lap here. I'm trying to figure out what everybody's car it may be set up with. So I know I have 45-40 wings. Roscoe is behind us on the mediums. He was 8 tenths slower than us in quali, but people make mistakes in quali, so you can't really go off quali times all the time. And he's able to stick with us here. So I think he's got either time trial setup or like 49-44 or something like that. He still has really high downforce on the mediums and still able to keep up with us. Not that I'm saying we're really good or anything like that. I could just be pretty bad in this race, but he's sticking with us on the mediums, and he qualified 3 positions below us. So coming onto the start-finish straight here, I am using battery, but I'm assuming he's using battery too, and we're actually gaining time on him. So at this point, I think, all right, he must have higher wings than we do. And you'll notice again, he is able to stick with us as we jump to the end of lap number 2 here. Through sectors 1 and or sector 2 at least, he was able to gain time on us. And then we come back to the start-finish straight here. He's about 6 tenths, 7 tenths behind us. We use some battery here again. I'm assuming he's going to use some battery. He sets the fastest lap. We're down to 25% battery now, and he doesn't gain any time on us. So either we have the same exact wings, which I don't think so, because he's got the slipstream. So he must have lower wings than I do, and that's right about this time in the race. I started to figure out he might have much higher wings. So once again, end of lap number 3, we're coming around the last few corners here. 7 tenths behind us. We are down to under 40% battery, and Ty Clear has dropped down to over 2 seconds behind us. So it looks like it's just myself and Roscoe for the win. We do use a little bit of battery, but again, he's not closing in. So yeah, in a situation like this, if you're not confident you're going to qualify on pole at a track like Hungary or like Singapore, I think you're better off going with low downforce. Well, I think in general you're better off going with low downforce anyway, even at other tracks where passing is pretty easy. But at a track like Hungary, I would much rather have low downforce and lose because I'm slower than everybody else than have high downforce on the car, know that I'm faster than everybody else, but I can't overtake because I'm too slow on the straights. So yeah, at a track like this, it's kind of difficult. Luckily for us, we went with low downforce and we qualified on pole, and we were able to maintain that lead at the beginning of the race. But had I Had I had a similar setup to Roscoe here, I guarantee he would have passed us in the first lap after DRS was enabled, and he probably would have been off in the distance, and we wouldn't have been able to stay with him, because as you can see now on lap number 6, he's really close behind us. And this is when I started to worry a little bit, trying not to make any mistakes, because even if we just get a little bit of wheel spin, or if we just go off track for a moment, with his setup and the way that he's been driving, he will pass us really easily. Now, take a look at this, how much he closes in on us on this fast right-hander, where his high downforce setup really helps him out. So it was during this part of the track where I was always super nervous with throttle and brake application, because I knew one little mistake and he was just going to go zooming by us. So Roscoe, kudos to this guy. He was really quick and didn't do any stupid dive bombs that you see from idiot drivers all the time. But yeah, he was able to stay within 3/10, 4/10 this entire lap, and I was starting to sweat. But then again, we get to the end of the lap here, and I don't know why the last few corners gave him some issues, as he was always dropping back a 10th or 2 on the last few corners. Could have just been dirty air. But we get back to the start-finish straight, and we're half a second ahead of him. Not even using battery at this point, because I realized he wasn't pushing on battery either. And even with DRS, he was only able to gain a 1/10.5 on that DRS straight. So yeah, guys, I would recommend going lower with the wings. Like I said, I would much rather go with lower wings and lose because I was slower than everybody, than have higher wings, know that I'm faster, but not be able to do any overtaking because you don't have any straight line speed. Now here, I didn't want to go below 10% because I didn't want him to realize where my state of charge was on the battery. But because we're so close to dropping him from DRS, I decided to just waste all my battery. We weren't really able to do that. He had DRS still, and I think he drained his battery as well. But we weren't really able to drop him from DRS. Now, he is 8/10 behind us. Coming up to the end of lap number 8 here, once again, we were really close to dropping him from DRS, but he was able to just barely maintain 9/10 behind us here, and he gets DRS once again. So now we are low on battery once again, 17%, but we're not flashing, so now he doesn't really know where our battery is. And for some reason, Hungary this year, recharging your battery at Hungary is a lot easier than it was last year. So we come to the end of lap number 9 now. I'm going to come in to pit, but there's a ghosted car. There's a back marker in front of us. And for some reason, he ghosts out, and then right when I get by him, he doesn't ghost out. He ghosts back in. I have to go around him because I thought we were going to hit him. But luckily for us, we managed to go around. And I think it threw Roscoe off as well, as we gained a little bit of time here. So Alpha Southfield keeps on going. He started P14 and made up a bunch of time and positions. So must have been a really fast driver there. He goes on for one more lap, and as we're exiting, I realized Ty Clear had pitted maybe a lap or two earlier than us, and he's coming down the start-finish straight. Now, we managed to get in front of him, but luckily for us, Roscoe comes out behind Ty Clear. Now, we are 2 seconds ahead of Ty, but our tires are really cold, just coming out of the pit lane now, 78 degrees, and we have absolutely no grip. And I'm assuming Ty is draining his battery to try and close that gap on us while our tires are cold. We only have 40% battery. I was pondering the decision whether I wanted to use the battery to extend the gap, or do I want to save it to fight for later on in the race. But I decided to save it. I didn't want to waste it. I figured he's only quick now because his tires are up to optimal temperatures and ours are still cold. And Roscoe is behind this guy right now. So let's save the battery. Roscoe's going to eventually get by Ty. Roscoe's on the softs. Roscoe was much faster than Ty. So I'm going to save the battery to fight for later. We did use a little bit there to try and maintain the keep him out of DRS, which I think was a smart decision because we did manage to keep him out of DRS here. And now our tire temps are finally in the 90s, and I think we are pretty good. So Alpha Southfield comes into pit. He is going to be on the softs, I believe. He was on the mediums, and now he will be on the softs. Roscoe still hasn't been able to clear Ty. and we are starting to extend from tie now. So using a lot of battery there to make sure that we extend that gap. And as you can see now, lap 14, we managed to keep Roscoe out of DRS, and he started falling back. Now the engineer comes over with the fuel. I take a look at my fuel, and I was like, holy crap, we only have 0.06 laps worth of fuel extra in the car. So at this point, I figured we're gonna have to start doing some lifting coasting. Roscoe was 3.2 seconds ahead. We started lifting and coasting, and luckily for us, we only managed to drop half a second to Roscoe. So again, this wasn't an amazing race, not a lot of action or anything like that, but I think it shows you the importance of figuring out what your setup should be. Do you want to have high downforce and just be quick overall, or do you want low downforce, lose a little bit of time through the corners, but be able to defend on the straights or overtake on the straights? Now, I'm not really all that great, so even with high downforce, I'm slow through the corners anyway. I figured I might as well just put the low downforce setup on, be slow in the corners like I would have been, but at least on the straights, I'll be a little bit quicker. So like I said, if Roscoe had the same setup that we did, he probably would have been able to overtake us. But because we had lower downforce on our car, when you got to the DRS straight, even without using battery, we were able to maintain the gap. I mean, some laps he was really close and we had to use our battery to stay in front, but for the most part, we were able to stay ahead with just the straight line speed of our car. And we were good enough to finish in P1. I'm not sure what happened with Alpha Cellfuel in quali, why he started the race so far behind us. It seemed like he was really, really quick, and he moved up from P14 to P3 there. And if we'd have gone like a 50 or 35% race, he probably would have won the race. But luckily for us, we managed to finish in first. So again, Cody still hasn't fixed the corner cutting and track limits penalty crap with ranked races. So the racing director is just full of people exceeding track limits. But we didn't get a single warning here. And I think Roscoe only got 2 warnings. So he actually had a pretty clean race as well and was still able to be fast. I think Alpha had 3 warnings, but he was still pretty fast anyway. So yeah, like I said, not an amazing race, but a really good defensive race for us, and a reason why you need to really work on your setups and figure out what works best on a track. So there we go, boys and girls. Our first race back in about 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll get some more videos up. If you think I've earned it, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Remember to eat a bok choy. I'll see you guys in the next one.